Welcome back, everyone. In this video, I want to address a very important topic, and that's why I titled it, at least the thumbnail, Don't Be Fooled, is because I believe that's what's taking place here in the community and into really just seeping into the market. Because when we have these unprecedented runs this early, it gives people, it kind of adjusts the anticipation or the expectation of what has happened normally. And that's one of the things I've been talking about consistently, which was we could have the potential to have a shorter run because we're running so early, or we could just have an extremely violent uptick just because we ran so early and it consumes its price action very early, and then we end up running for the full 18 months. But that 18-month cycle is technically speaking, that is technically the average of the bull run in crypto. Now, there's a few things that are different this time, right? The amount of people that are coming into the market. We do have a larger number of retail investors in the sector. B, Bitcoin has set an all-time high prior to the halving. This has never happened in the history of crypto. C, altcoins, Dogecoin, everybody had runs typically. I won't say everybody, but at least the top 10 had these historic runs where they ran along with Bitcoin prior to the halving. Technically speaking, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all those guys run first, and then the other coins run a little later, like toward the end of the cycle. So that's what you're looking at here on the chart is because I want to kind of just bring this up and kind of educate everyone so that they're not fooled into thinking that the run is over prematurely, or that certain coins are not going to perform just because we are so early inside of the trend here. Because technically speaking, and I know I've said this in a few videos and even in the comment sections, Doge should be, based off of history, Doge should be still less than 10 cents right now. So the fact that we're running early, that's an atonement to the strength of the actual movement. And it kind of gives you some insight of what the expectations are for the run at the conclusion of this bull run. I think it's going to shock a lot of people, but we're looking here. The last Bitcoin halving was May 11th, 2020, right? So somewhere, let's see, right around here, right? Doge was less than a penny, and we obviously didn't have that peak run until roughly about a year later, right? When we hit the all-time high. So we're talking about a 12-month difference between, obviously we ran before then, and we had the breakouts and stuff because of TikTok and all that kind of good stuff. But even January, like we really got like there's some of the bigger upticks like December of that year. So we're talking about 6-7 months later. And we got the biggest uptick at around January, and then obviously we went to the all-time high of that. So we're talking about months after the halving, and that's something I wanted to kind of clear up in the community section, because technically people will have the Bitcoin halving and they think that, okay, well, the night of the halving it just kind of shoots up. No, the halving is technically the starting point. This is when, like, if you technically over history, you take your positions, you get your buys in, you do all that good stuff prior to the halving. After the halving, then it's kind of like, okay, and now things are going to start moving. This is the second phase of the bull run, but we've set all-time highs prior to the halving. Doge is up 187% prior to the halving. So this we know that this cycle is going to be different from the ones before. We just don't necessarily know how different, but we know that it's going to be different because we've seen much more aggressive price action early in the run, right? Technically, the runs and stuff that we've seen now, this doesn't happen till later, like months. We are literally, this is why I titled the video, we are months ahead of schedule. Like, so there is certainly some leeway here, even like going off of history, there's certainly some leeway here for the movements of these coins here. So don't let these news articles and these people come in and go, oh God, it's over, crypto's dead, Fed coin, put it back in the stocks, all this kind of different stuff I'm seeing. Historically speaking, we are ahead of schedule, and we've shown that, and this is so far the most aggressive bull run we've had in the history of crypto, right? And that is an undeniable fact. We're going to take a look here at, I want to go to BTC so you guys can take a look at the price action there, right? From we're going to go back to believe it was it 2021? 2020. Let's go back. Oh, too far. 2020, right? So May 11th, right here, looking at around $6,000 on May 11th. And we had a slow decline. I mean, excuse me, a slow increase, which is technically how it's supposed to go. And technically, the all-time high prior to that was much higher, right? So we're talking about a very steep increase here from a decrease here from around, like, if we're talking 18K down to 6, right? So, and then it's like, okay, well, how deep into the cycle did it take to get back to that? We didn't see that again. We're talking about 2020, right? We didn't see those numbers again until December of that year, right? Technically speaking, you have the halving, and then December of that year is where things get kind of interesting, and then into the next year is when you start to see those record prices. This is one of the things where I was saying that things typically start creeping up. So when we have these, when we see where we are in like the charts, you see these numbers, and we have these sell-offs or these corrections, and you're able to buy around support. That's typically, historically, that's a good idea, because you don't know if it's going to revisit that support again, because it's not necessarily saying that it's going to go parabolic like the next day or that early in the cycle, which is what's been happening in this bull run. But historically, that doesn't happen. But it can be a slow increase to the point where if you had the opportunity to buy Bitcoin at $6,000, you may have never seen it again, even though it wasn't necessarily an explosive run, but you would have never seen it again. It's kind of like if you had the opportunity to buy, Doge at 6 or 8 cents, even though we did have an explosion of run this cycle, but even though it sat there for a couple of years actually, but when things took off, it's highly probable you're not going to see those numbers again. So that's technically it's why it's important to kind of have the encompass of what's going on in the cycle, so you can better make decisions for your positions. Because if you don't, news and propaganda, shock value, the swings of this market can cause you to exit your position prematurely. There are a lot of people back in 2018, 2017, all that kind of good stuff, when this thing sold off and went down, I want to say to like $4,000. They said that was it, right? They sold their positions. They went from there's some people that bought at the top, right? Because the people that sold, you're selling to somebody. There are people that bought at the top here. Some of these people liquidated those positions. If they would have held, like even when it went up to like 12 and it dipped again. And you have to understand, like, I know a lot of my subscribers are, Doge focused, but the tone and the sentiment happens across the board. It happens everywhere in every coin. There, it goes up and it looks like it's about to test a certain number, and then it sells off by 50%. And then here come the people, oh my God, it's dead, it's over, it's not happening. And then, patience, the people that waited, they were able to capitalize greatly off of that. And you can see the same thing. I can do this with Ethereum. I can do this with Doge. I'm not going to take you guys through all of that, but you see that historically this has happened. This is zoomed out for Doge, so in comparison to what's happened to where we are now. And this is the point here where we were around 6-7 cents for this period of time. We had the rally, very similar to, I guess, like the 6 to 12, if you want to do a comparison for Bitcoin. And then we had the sell-off. But if you would have had patience and waited, you would have been able to, even now, before peak bull run, you would have been able to double your money. So it's just really comes down to the biggest things, I think, even for this bull run and not being fooled, is being comfortable with your coin count, being comfortable with the amount that you have invested. Not saying, try and time the market and put everything into crypto, because, these cycles can run long. A year and a half is a long time for a cycle to fulfill itself, right? Just like the people that invested toward the end of 2021 or have been holding since 2021, they had to wait 2022, 2023. So they've been waiting for years on this. And now you're at the cusp of the run that can still take another 18 months. It's not a, wake up one day and then it kind of takes off. When now it does, when we get around these points, like we were charting some of the higher numbers in these zones. When we start getting to the gap zones, things do get interesting. Now, obviously, we'll have to compare that to probably like the 2016 cycle and take a look at the 2021 cycle. But this is why these numbers are so pivotal between 18 and 22, because after that, you do get some of those gaps. Based off of history, there's a lot of momentum and capital that was flowing into the market. Now, this is a more organic run, so obviously we'll see how that plays into this cycle and what type of actions and stuff that we're going to get. But overall, we are early, right? We're months ahead of schedule. We've had a very aggressive run as far as for test and breaking out. And even now, it's not necessarily retail that's dumping the coin, or the tone is changing, because if you want to overlay this between Doge and Bitcoin, they're doing the same thing, right? We are at the support which we bounced off of, which is around the 15 cent. We had to push up, and today they're pushing it down, and we're literally having that battle at around 15 cent, which we charted on the way up and established that even on the last cycle, this was 15, 16 cent was a major support level. This is corporate money allocation, because you can see the exact same trend happening right here with Bitcoin. Off of the number it bounced up off of, around the 62 mark, it had to push up. They tried to push down. Then today that liquidity is coming out, and now it's pretty much doing and pretty much balancing out between yesterday and today. It's the exact same trend playing out on like a number 10 coin that's playing out on the number 1 coin. That retail is not matching big money. I can promise you that. Big money is playing a percentage game with their crypto allocations. That's how you get these overlapping chart patterns that are literally twins between like the number 1 and number 10 coin, and they're all charting the exact same thing. That's not retail, I promise you. So also do that when you're looking at things, or if you're watching certain perspectives, and you see things are saying, or if it's negative, just trying to overlay that what you're seeing. Even if it's not Dogecoin, but if it is, you can say, hey, is Doge doing a divergence from what's happening overall in the market, right? Did the other coins get a specific catalyst? Did Bitcoin get a specific catalyst? Is there a specific ETF approval or something like that that could cause a spike? Is there a big divergence, right? Is Dogecoin down 5% and the rest of the coins are up 10%, or are they all down? Are they charting the same patterns, right? As long as all of those things are aligning and they're charting the same patterns, there's no individual catalyst, none of that good stuff that kind of can cause a divergence. Everything is trending according to the market and how it should be, right? And we're ahead of schedule. Corporate money is aligning their portfolios, doing their allocations, their percentages, everything's lining up. Nothing has caused I don't see evidence of anything that should cause a panic, especially when something runs to almost 200% in 3 months, and then it sells off, 10, 15%. Even if it's off 30%, they're like, oh my God, it's over. Like it's the tone of the market, I believe, even for new investors, has to change. Because even if you look at that from like an investing standpoint, 30% correction off of 200% in a month, that's insane, right? Like, so even if you have that sell-off here, where are the people going to? There's going to be points where people take profits, even if that's 18%. Even if if there's a major event like a shock value for news or a macro event, that's going to happen. Like if this would have happened if we'd had an Iran attack or something like that at 50 cent, you don't think that would have shocked about the market, and people would have pulled money out to free up liquidity? Like the number has nothing to do with it. It's, shock value is real, and there will be points where you're going to have that little domino that kind of that triggers people to take profit. But that doesn't mean that it's the end of the run, right? Like historically speaking, no event or one particular event has canceled a bull run or canceled a cycle of liquidity coming into the market. So again, we're going to chart this and see how things progress going forward. Well, right now, like again, we are months ahead of schedule. We are doing absolutely fantastic. Bitcoin's doing fantastic. Ethereum's doing fantastic. Doge is doing fantastic. Cardano is questionable, but for the most part, everything is going according to, or better than it has ever gone in a bull cycle, even with this sell-off. So just gonna keep that in mind and think about the big picture and totality. So that being said, if you have found value and if you can subscribe to the channel, please do so. We're going to beat Bitcoin to $100,000 by getting 100,000 subscribers first. So leave a comment, a question in the comment section. I'll get to as many of you as possible, and I will see you guys in the next video.